Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thanks for entering the crypt with us. We're Bone Patrol. I'm Aaron.
Chris?
And I'm Tyler.
And we're back at it again with another episode. This time we got Tyler on the mic. Tyler, take it away.
Beep boop beep bop.
MC Tyler. Actually, I want to cut Tyler off before we get into whatever he's got planned for us. So I got an apology to make, actually. I know, a first on-air apology. In the Dream Survey episode, me and Angela were trashing on the YouTubers that were getting messages back from the Dream Survey. Like, they would text it and get stuff back. Essentially, I was saying that they were faking it, but me and her both ended up getting unique messages back the week of our podcast episode being released. So we're going to be doing a little revisit on that episode, but just to give you a little taste of it, when you get the automated message back that just says, "Thank you for leaving a voicemail and participating in the Happy Valley Dream Survey," I just asked, "Who are you?" And then a week later at 5 a.m., they responded with the Happy Valley Dream Survey. And from there, we had a whole conversation. And I don't want to get into it because we're obviously going to have to do a little revisit here, but something to keep your eyes peeled for.
Also, to clarify, we're not claiming that our podcast had anything to do with this out of nowhere communication. It just seems like really, really convenient timing, right? It seems purely coincidental.
I think this man is a listener on the show. I think he likes our podcast.
Is it Little Lucas? Is that his name?
Little Lucas is thisman.org.
Yeah, is he the man?
I don't know, Little Lucas, let us know.
Tell me.
But yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bite, something to hook you in, because we're gonna have to revisit it. We already wanted to do a part 2 on the Futel telephones, but we might have to do 3 parts on this, considering that we got this going on. But besides that, we're not getting that to right now. We're gonna let Tyler take the wheel.
Right. Keep your ears peeled for that episode. Also, don't forget to go check out Every Last Miles Yeti Challenge that is still ongoing. Try to win some cool prizes. Go over to his website and YouTube channel to figure out what to do.
For sure. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most hairiest, the most meanest monsters out there.
How many episodes are we going to do on Hudson?
I was planning on 7, but we might have to make it 8.
Oh my goodness.
But no, we're going to be talking about the Chupacabra. Nah, I'm joking. We're going to be talking about werewolves. Who doesn't like werewolves?
I mean, I know for me and my family, we're Team Jacob all the way, so.
Oh,
Until we die. Preferably not by a werewolf, though.
We have tattoos on our shoulder, between our shoulder blades, that's just one massive letter that if we line up, it spells Team Jacob.
Did we decide it was between our shoulder blades?
I hope so, because that's where mine is.
Mine is between another body part.
Oh, no. Well, anyways, I'm sure everyone knows what a werewolf is, but for those of you who don't, it's basically a man that can change into a wolf-like
border
creature,
collie.
A border collie, yes.
Man's best friend.
Man's best friend, of course. But yeah, those are what werewolves are. Fun fact for those monster cereal fans, like myself, in the 1970s, there was a werewolf-themed cereal, and it was called Fruit Brute.
Was this a Kellogg's thing, like released at the same time as Count Chocula and Frankenberry?
So it was part of that line.
General Mills, but yeah.
Oh, was it General Mills that did that? Yeah. What did I say? Kellogg's?
But no, it was part of that same line of cereal with Count Chocula, Boo Berry, Frankenberry, and then they also had a mummy one.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Fruit Brute, from what my dad tells me, it's like a fruit punch cereal, which is weird.
Which is awesome.
But it came out in the 1970s, and I guess in the 80s they just discontinued it. But sad day. We're not going to talk about that, but...
just ignore everything we just said about it, because we're not talking about it.
We're not talking about cereal. We're talking about werewolves.
I have another on-air apology real quick, though. I mixed up Kellogg's and General Mills. That's a cereal cardinal sin, and I'm really sorry. Please forgive me.
You truly are a serial killer.
All right. But it's very interesting. Throughout me studying about werewolves, there are so many different depictions of werewolves in, how they look, what their powers are, what their weaknesses are. And it's very interesting to see that that werewolves don't come from a central culture. It seems like through my research that every culture has stories about werewolves that are all different from other culture stories about werewolves. So right now I'm going to be talking about the stories and some of the origins. And I'm not going to talk about all of them, but if I miss some of them, miss some of your favorite werewolf stories, please let us know.
I can already tell you that my favorite werewolf story isn't in there.
Yeah, I was meaning to talk to you about that.
I noticed you kept deleting it from the doc.
It's I want to say it's not family friendly, but maybe that's in my eyes.
It's my favorite.
Sorry.
It's fine.
But yeah, if you have any werewolf stories or just any stories in general, please email us. I'd like to know them.
Yeah, especially if you are a werewolf.
Yeah, I'd like to know if you're allergic to silver or you just don't like shiny metals. But yeah, so first we're going to talk about the origin of the werewolf. So where do werewolves come in? So the earliest writing I could find about a werewolf is in a Latin book called the Satyricon. And so basically the Satyricon was written by Gaius Petronius. He was a Roman. Yeah, it's a cool name.
You're making this guy up.
No, I'm not.
You're
What?
making this Gaius
Petronius?
up.
But yeah, so he he was born around the 1st century AD, and he grew up as a Roman citizen. But he did not like Roman culture, so he wrote this book, kind of making a satire against Roman culture by writing little bits of short stories and then just compiling it all into one book. So one of these stories, and this is found in section 62 if you want to read it, is about two friends.
I'm sorry, can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Is he's written a series of stories and compiled them into one book to really teach Roman society a lesson?
True.
Isn't that kind of the same thing Alexander Hamilton did with his letters that he wrote?
You mean from the play Hamilton?
Yes, that. But also
I
the
think
real
he's
life.
more referring to history.
No, that's not real. That's a play.
Yeah, that's just a Disney play,
do you think?
Christopher. Get out of here.
You're gonna tell me Cats is real life as well?
Well, there are cats in real life.
I don't believe you.
Fair enough. I'm not really trustworthy. So this guy pulled an Alexander, but he was writing stories fictional about werewolves and such, or
Almost I want to say allegorical, if that makes sense, where it talks about Roman culture and it shines kind of a negative light, but he uses mythical creatures. So some of his stories have witches in them, and then some of them they just have stories of just scenarios people go through on a daily life in Rome, and he just makes fun of them.
so he's like, I'm gonna teach these Romans a lesson by convincing the rest of the world the average Roman has 4 nipples or something.
I think that's a true fact, though.
Yeah, I think it became a believed myth because of Petronius Gregorius, whatever his name was.
Gaius Petronius. Oh gosh, now I messed up his name. It's gonna haunt me now. But in section 62. It's about two friends, and it's a really short story. But basically, they go out walking, and it's night, and they're walking through a graveyard. You know, like that's not creepy at all. I walk through graveyards sometimes with my friends, and they split up. One goes to look at the flowers, the pretty flowers, and the other one goes to count graves for some reason. So the friend who went to go look at flowers, so he's off in the distance, and the friend, counting graves, kind of looks over to see where his friend's at, and the guy starts taking off his clothes, and he goes, whoa, what you doing there, bud? And he goes, I'm not doing anything. Urinates around in a circle around his clothes. This is what it says. And he turns into a werewolf. And the guy's like, what?
And is it just like, is he urinating around his clothes to mark territory?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, all right.
Or maybe he just likes those flowers, so he's like, I'll save these for later.
By peeing on them.
Yes.
In Roman culture, it's what they used to call a rad thing to do.
That's actually one of the stories from his novel. It's called The Romans' Rad Thing to Do.
It was also a way of proving that you are better than someone.
Yeah, I do that sometimes, but it is very looked down upon now.
Wait, when you say it's... How do you measure your dominance by peeing?
I would say the volume and probably
the
the
velocity
smell.
at which you take the pee.
Velocity.
The stream's power.
Sure.
The pressure. Can you cut through an apple?
But yeah, so his friend turns into a werewolf, and so the friend just goes berserker mode and just starts killing livestock, and some farmer with a pitchfork stabs him in the neck, and the guy wanders off, and eventually finds his friend again, and he's being tended to, and he's like, hey bud, and then the story ends. That's it.
The dude survived getting stabbed in the neck?
Yeah, which is interesting.
I've seen Aaron suffer some pretty gnarly pitchfork wounds.
But never to the neck.
Yeah, I've never seen him take a pitchfork to the neck yet.
Let's not try.
Well, it's
Vegas
a family.
odds are
family
against
thing.
me.
Well, I don't know. He is in a wheelchair from it, but he handles it well. It's a fun game we play as a family. We'll have to talk about that another time.
Tune in next time. But yeah, so that's the first story I found, and I was like, that is very interesting. And the next story I found was a Greek story, and it's from the geographer. His name is Pausanias, and he told a couple of Greek myths about... So, interesting about Pausanias, he had multiple myths. Why did I say myths? Myths about werewolves, and they all kind of follow the same trend. So, there's these group of people, and usually they are ruled by a king or just a leader. And for some reason, they sacrificed babies to Zeus. And Zeus is like, whoa, hey, I just want a lamb. I don't want babies. And so he comes down, visits them, and they're like, Zeus? He's not a god. Watch this. We're going to feed him human entrails. Now, of course, Zeus knows that they're feeding him human entrails, because he probably saw them cooking it, and he gets mad at them, and he turns either the person or the people into wolves. And so, the two major people is King Lyconia, and then some dude named Demarcus. Demarcus, who was an Olympic boxer, way back then, which I don't know, it didn't really make much sense. And the only way they can turn back into humans was to not eat any people for 9 years. Which, I mean, that's a hard thing to do. Right?
I don't know. I've gone 27 years without eating a person.
Oh, that's a long time.
So wait, is this another story from the book?
No, so this is someone different
Writing the story.
Yeah, and it's around the same time period as Gaius Patronus, the Satyricon. So it's like 1st century AD.
It kind of just sounds like someone who didn't make it into the like Roman boxing club or something and was like, I'm gonna write stories about these guys. They feed babies to Zeus.
Is this also where the term lycanthropy originated from?
Yes, it's partly through King Lyconia. I'm pretty sure that's the origin of lycanthropy, but yeah. Okay, so yeah, these are just weird stories, and he also talks about these group of people. It's Mount Lyconia. And I'm assuming it's named after the king, but literally it translates to Wolf Mountain. And these people would have a festival around like the statue of Zeus, and it was, a custom for the young men to eat a person and then turn into a werewolf. And that was the whole reason of the sorry, Chris just looked up something.
I'm pulling up visuals.
I don't like these visuals.
Carry on.
But yeah, they like the whole reason for the festival is for them to turn into werewolves, which is just weird. But yeah, like the ancient Romans and Greeks aren't like the sole culture that, introduced werewolves. There are countless cultures, like the Native Americans, Germans have folklore about werewolves. Even like the Scandinavian countries.
Whoa, sorry. We're back.
Okay. Even like the Scandinavian countries, they have kind of like an origin of werewolves. Basically, Harold the First, King of Norway, he had a group of men that were called berserkers, basically, and they would dress up in like wolf skin and like bear skin, and they would just, go crazy, and like their enemies would just like freak out because they were so like ferocious, and that perpetrated like saying like these group of men were werewolves, like they would turn into wolves and like kill us.
I don't know if you noticed, Aaron, but I actually sent you the visuals of these guys.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so if you listeners at home need like a better visual on this, you can actually just Google furry convention, and you'll get everything you need from there. That's pretty much what we're talking about. People dressing up in wolf outfits.
This is the modern day representation of what Zeus turned King Lyconius into.
Honestly, I think that's 10 times scarier than like an actual werewolf.
I mean, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I would argue that there's actually a were creature far scarier than all of them, and I don't know if this is in your document, so please stop me if it is. But the were-rabbit.
I've never heard of a were-rabbit.
From Wallace and Gromit.
Are you kidding me right now?
Oh my gosh!
You've never seen that?
No, I've seen it. It's been a while though.
Yeah, we had it's on. Well, it's not just a documentary. They actually made a video game based about it.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic.
So these are like actual real life events, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what they look like in England.
Gosh, I'm never visiting England. So, listeners, please, if you're from England, please do tell us about the were-rabbit.
Yes, please.
Also, tell us what it's like to cook with those clay hands of yours. I'm curious what happens when it gets warm. Do you melt?
And do you guys often go to the moon to harvest cheese, or is that just a Wallace and Gromit ordeal?
Do all
Please
dogs
let us know.
walk around like people?
Is it common for penguins to rob a bank?
These are questions we have about life in the UK.
Please tell us. But yeah, so there's like so many cultures that, in one shape or another have talked about people turning into wolves or just any other animal. Like shape-shifting is like a popular popular folklore.
So would a skinwalker, would that in some form qualify as a werewolf?
I would, in the broad sense, yes. But from what we've defined it now as a society, perhaps no.
I would say some people do intertwine the two into being the same thing. I think it wouldn't be too much to say that there are people who would claim that all werewolves are skinwalkers, but not all skinwalkers are werewolves.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
So it's like all ovals are triangles, but not all circles are square.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, because in the
blind.
Skinwalker Ranch episode, in the Skinwalker Ranch episode, we talked about that massive wolf that dude was just pumping full of lead from his shotgun, right? So
Yeah.
is that a werewolf?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
You
So
consider
okay.
so are you considering, just from the classic definition, any person that has turned into a wolf is a werewolf?
I would say so. Because there's a lot of like different stories where, like take for instance like movies. So like I'm trying to think of a word, like Twilight. He turns into like this ginormous like wolf. But like if you look at other movies, kind of like
Wolfman.
the Wolfman, yeah. Or Werewolf in London, they turn into this like humanoid werewolf where it's like they're hairy and they have long nails, but they're not like hunched on all fours. They're like, that's hard to describe, but do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So either you got a humanoid hairy boy, or you got a massive dog.
Yeah.
Is there then a difference between shapeshifters and werewolves and skinwalkers?
From like folklore, no. Like folklore wise, they still categorize them as werewolves.
Is it the similar idea that any shapeshifter that can turn into a wolf is a werewolf, but if they choose not to, then they're not technically a werewolf then at that point?
Yeah, I guess if they don't change into a werewolf, yeah, they wouldn't be.
So you can be a shapeshifter without being a werewolf. But if at any point as a shapeshifter you choose to take the form of a wolf, you have then turned yourself into a werewolf.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when did we get the classic idea of werewolves? Then where did that come from? The whole full moon, biting other people and turning them into werewolves. Where did that all come from?
So with the full moon, there's several stories in Germanic folklore. I read some of them. I didn't put it in this podcast. But I think that's where the moon, like changing in the moon. But there's also some other, folklore where, they just change at night. It doesn't matter where if there's a full moon or not. The bite. Now, see, that's interesting because there's like multiple. We'll talk later about how you change into or how you become a werewolf. But yeah,
I've seen enough Animorphs covers to know how you change into a werewolf.
You just start screaming.
You just do it.
Yeah. But yeah. So now we're gonna be talking about books about werewolves. So there's a ton of books about werewolves, and there's I didn't want to read all of them, to be honest. And so I just read one that I thought was interesting. And this one's pretty old. It's called basically The Werewolf. And it's written by Clements Hausman. And it was written around the same time Count Dracula was written, so like 1896, 1895. And it's about a story about these two twin brothers. One's name is Christopher, and one's name is Sven.
Aaron. Oh,
and
Sven.
Oh, Sven. So we can change it to Aaron, I guess.
Wait, isn't this in Frozen?
How'd you know?
Isn't that a thing? I've seen Frozen.
Did you read my? I'm kidding. No, this is.
Wait, isn't that really two characters from Frozen?
I'm trying to think who's
the guy, the blonde guy, and
and the reindeer.
Yeah, isn't that their names?
I didn't think about that. Maybe they got this from Frozen.
Where does Frozen take place? Arendelle? I mean, that's a made up place, right? That's fictional, but like, do we know where it's supposed to be at?
I'd say somewhere up north.
All right. I'm just connecting some dots here.
Yeah. Ooh, Chris is a little smart. A little
Nah.
too smart. So basically this book is about, so these two twin brothers, they live in this kind of remote village up in the mountains. And it's like the dead of winter. And there's this like big, like, snowstorm. And this huntress like comes out of nowhere and like, comes into the village, and everyone's like, wow, you like survived a snowstorm. You must be amazing. And so like everyone loves this like huntress, like this brand new person who's so unique. She's like this big woman with like this like fur coat, and it's like, wow, she's real cool. Everyone likes her except Christopher. Christopher hates
I thought we
her.
decided
I'm
we were substituting his name for mine.
I thought we were
wait, what?
substituting Sven's name for yours.
That'd be a lot easier.
You're Sven in the store. We're going to reenact it as you go. Aaron, you're Sven.
I'm here to pump you
so
up. Let's go.
Pump you up. So the reason why Christopher doesn't like her is because he realizes this huntress is a werewolf.
Oh, I recognize her. I can smell the wet fur from a mile away, and she keeps eating all my dog food.
Which is funny because they have a pet wolf in their village, and he doesn't like her either. And Christopher's like, wait, if he doesn't like her, and she's like acting kind of weird, like she won't like stay the night during, she won't stay the night in the village. She'll always like be out, and she doesn't give out her real name. They call her by like a nickname, and she doesn't like holy water, which is interesting.
So to get this right before I go about my reenactment, I really need to capture the scene here. So I am getting this information based off of the fact that I was like, she's weird, and then my dog didn't like her, and that's what really set it off.
Yeah, and then like throughout the story, like you do kind of like experiments on her. Like at night, you like check her room to see if she's like sleeping, but she's not, and the window's open. And you're like, that's weird.
I didn't go to school, but I sent my dog to school, so I trust his opinion. So I did watched her, and she don't drink water.
This guy's is as smart as Sherlock Holmes.
My dog?
Yes.
What a guy.
So basically, Christopher doesn't like her. Aaron, or Sven, falls in love with her.
Oh.
And throughout this like book, like almost every night, like a member of the village gets murdered, and like their throat is just pulled out, and they're just like a mess, and it's just guts everywhere, and they're like, yeah, like the wolves keep on attacking us, like we need to like watch out. And Christopher, he's like, it's this huntress lady. Nah, it's not. And so he finally figures out that the next target for the huntress is his brother, Aaron. or Sven.
Hey, Aaron, she done did come for you. My dog told me.
Yeah, dude. Because I got them Scooby snacks.
Scooby Dooby Doo.
You done gonna treat her to some scoop snacks?
Where is your accent originating from?
Yeah.
My dog.
Your dog's from a weird country.
I learned everything from him. I didn't go to school. He went for me.
Why do I feel like we're in the backwoods of Alabama?
I could really use those Scooby snacks.
Please. So basically, one night he decides to confront her. And he does that. And she's kind of freaking out. And she's she knows that, if he can prove that she's a werewolf, she's dead. And so basically what she does is she runs away from him. And Christopher is just, chases her. Out in the middle of the night. And
I feel like I'm gonna die here.
Maybe. So he's chasing her, and this moon is rising. So the moon's rising. She's kind of transforming ever so slightly into a werewolf, and they eventually get into this big fight, and she just breaks both of Christopher's arms. They're just. How it's funny because in the book it describes it in gruesome detail, and I'm like, wait a second, this was written in the 18th or the 1800s. Why is this so gruesome?
There was no rules back then.
I guess not.
There was no one telling you what could be in a young adult novel.
Yeah. But he gets his both of his arms broken, and he's basically fighting this huntress who's transforming into a werewolf with his teeth. He's trying to bite her. And, this kind of reminds me of a Naruto episode. If you ever seen the Zabuza fight. Wow, I like how it's getting bigger and bigger.
I also feel like you are comparing it to Naruto, and that was a very cool fight because,
It was.
spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, too late. It's been out for so freaking long. Zabuza gets both his arms broken, and he goes into battle with a knife in his mouth. And that's how he plans on killing the dudes. But I think that you're making this seem a little more heroic than it is.
No, it is. It is not. It is heroic.
What I'm doing with my broken arms is heroic.
Yes.
It sounds stupid.
Oof.
Well, that's your opinion.
It sounds like. Why would I get into a biting match with a massive wolf?
Because you want to protect your brother. You love your brother.
Or I guess so.
But yeah, she eventually bites him in the neck, and she fully becomes a werewolf, and she just starts dying, which is wait, what? And the whole reason behind this.
Wait, can I make a guess?
Okay, guess.
Is it because she's a huntress, she's an adult. So what, she's
Correct.
got to be at 20s to 50s somewhere. I feel like you're older than
Yes.
that. You're not going to be making it through a winter storm on your own very easily. So she's fully converted to werewolf, which means dog years is catching up to her.
So she's now over 150.
That's what's killing her.
No, so in the book it explains it as, so previously I said she doesn't like holy water because it since
Tastes bad.
werewolves, yeah, it tastes bad. Werewolves are in some folklore they describe them as demonic beings, almost making a deal with the devil. And it literally explains that that the blood of Christopher is so pure because he loves his brother so much that the werewolf cannot handle his blood, and so therefore she dies.
So Harry Potter.
Yes. I'm wait a second, J.K. Rowling.
Very clever. Very
To
clever.
be fair, it's quite the obscure story. It's very easy to plagiarize without being caught.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was wait a second. And it's funny, I looking up a picture of the author, looking up her Wikipedia, she's only written like maybe 3 other books, and like this is her most popular book. And I had to go to it's called Liver Fox. Liver Fox.
Liver Fox.
Liver Fox. Like, this is a weird name because it's short for library.
Liver Fox is short for library.
Well, no. So like the first 4 letters. So LIBR. Liber.
Liber.
Sorry, not liver. It's basically like they have free publications of books, like audiobooks you can listen to, and that's how I found it.
So you said she has 3 other books?
Yeah, and I can't even remember the other titles, to be honest.
I could make a guess. It was probably like The Wizard and The Boulder and The Full Blood King and The Guard at Alcatraz.
Sounds close enough, I guess.
I'm coming for you, JK.
but yeah. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it's as good as, Frankenstein or Count Dracula. But it's an interesting way how they kill the werewolf. Not by like silver bullets, not by like any other means, which is weird. So that was the only book I listened to. There is plenty of other books. But yeah.
I do actually want to say real quick while we were going through that, I looked up kind of a basic where the idea of the full moon causing them to transform comes from, and it comes from the myth of dogs and wolves only howling at full moons, which is false, but it's pretty much saying when the full moon comes out, it's like that primal instinct, that primal transformation starts to take place, because I don't know, there's some sort of power that attracts dogs and wolves to a full moon, as the myth goes. So that's why they transform on a full moon.
Maybe it's just because they want to go to bed. Like, the full moon's kind of bright. Like, turn those lights off.
They're yelling at it. They're angry at it.
Turn those lights off!
But, so that's where that comes from on a basic level.
Okay. The more you know. So now we're going to talk about movies. I was only able to watch one movie, but there are over 154 movies that have werewolves in them. And there's probably even more, but that was the count that I got. So like they range from like, spooky horror films, kind of like The Werewolf Man or the Wolf Man, or they could be comedies like Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
I love that one.
I think what they should have done in that movie is have Scooby Doo fight the werewolf over a Scooby snack.
I don't know how that movie ends.
I don't
Scooby
know
bites
I never saw it.
the werewolf, and the werewolf then turns into a Great Dane under the full moon.
Is that real?
No.
Is this fact?
No.
Well, there was a Halloween episode, I think. It was like a movie. It was a Scooby Doo movie, and
they race cars.
They raced the cars, and they're in like Dracula's place. And I think there's like mummies and werewolves there too.
There are. There's all the monsters. Frankenstein's even there. Frankenstein's monster. They go to Dracula's castle, and it's basically Mario Kart.
It's super sick.
I'll have to look into that.
I think we should start hosting. You know how people Twitch stream, like, watch a movie with me? We need to start watching these movies.
Yeah, just watch all the Scooby-Doo movies and like make a ranking of like what's our favorite and what's our like least favorite.
It's true. We could.
I mean, there's so many out there.
I think we have something to look to into the future.
But yeah, my favorite, and I still need to find a copy of this. But the movie is called Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And basically, from the plot, it talks about, so the Wolfman dies and someone resurrects him, and the Wolfman doesn't want to be resurrected because he hates being a werewolf. And for some reason, Frankenstein is still alive. And the werewolf meets this doctor who's trying to, I think he's trying to kill Frankenstein, or at least pacify him so he, stops hurting people. And I watched a scene from it, and it's like, if you're excited for, the upcoming movie King Kong versus Godzilla, if you can't wait for that to come out, watch this movie. Because, man, the fight scenes, like, who doesn't want to watch, like, Frankenstein against the Wolfman? Like, that's, like, what better fight can you come up with?
So, wait, was he resurrected to fight Frankenstein?
I'm not sure.
It kind of just sounds like Freddy versus Jason.
I think so, because it was made in the 1940s, and like from reading it, I was like, this makes no sense. But I mean, the fight scene was pretty cool.
That's good.
But yeah, and it's funny that so the guy who plays Count Dracula, Bela Lugosi, he plays Frankenstein. So therefore, Count Dracula is Frankenstein at some point.
According to Universal Studios.
Yes. But yeah, so if you want to watch that, or if you have a favorite werewolf movie that I didn't mention, not Twilight, but any other movie, please tell me.
Yeah, it's still
You're not
it's
gonna watch
Scooby Doo
Twilight.
and the Reluctant Werewolf, which we
which is my bad.
misstating, Christopher. Shaggy is the werewolf in that movie.
Oh my gosh.
Does Scooby bite him under a full moon?
Yeah, and so Shaggy turns into a Great Dane. No, I don't remember what happens, but they have to go to Dracula's castle, and he has to win that car race, or he'll stay a werewolf forever.
Oh, that is that movie?
Yeah.
No way. That's funny. I thought they weren't the same movie. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's something with a werewolf in that movie.
It's literally called Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Which, sorry, Tyler, this is the greatest monster fight in all of filmology.
Oh, I have yet to see this one, so.
Reluctant Werewolf. So, well, we should actually look into how we can, because how do streamers get away with just watching TV and movies on stream? How do they do that? Because yeah, I remember Shaggy looking like he barely looks like a werewolf. It's hilarious. Like, aren't you supposed to be in your transformation of a werewolf? You get, powerful. He stays kind of like a dweeb. I love it.
His shirt changes color, though.
Yeah, why?
He gets a red shirt as opposed to his typical green shirt when he's just fully human.
Well, it's actually really common to believe that werewolves, they're similar to bulls, but their trigger color is green.
Well, also look at Count Dracula. He has green skin, so therefore he is Frankenstein Count Dracula.
I mean, I think they've actually probably captured what Dracula is supposed to look like better than Hollywood did, because he is dead, so he's got to be
That's true.
rotting and gross, right?
Over 90 minutes of nonstop action. Man, I gotta rent that movie.
We probably still own it on
remember-
VHS somewhere.
Oh, there it is. I remember that they drive their love bug with the bull horns on the top of it. It's an absolute machine. It's Herbie on steroids. Look at that guy. There's a
That's
guy.
Wolfgang.
Yeah, his name is Wolfgang. He kind of looks like a lion. Anyways, you should go watch the movie yourselves.
Yes.
I'm assuming that is Morticia Adams.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is
it does look
no
like her.
greater werewolf.
There's a lot
movie.
going on in this movie. They have Tweedledee and Tweedledum as if they had babies with Igor. This is sick. This is the ultimate mashup.
Yeah. I stand corrected. Oh my gosh.
I think we need to get a live action remake of Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
I agree. Man, those movies were kind of interesting.
I'm down to reboot the live action Scooby Doo franchise.
But as long as we start with this.
I'm going to pitch
Alright,
this
I'm done.
idea to Steven Spielberg.
I've gone too far in the photos where we're getting like anime
We better turn it off.
Shaggy in werewolf form.
Please turn it.
My
So
bad.
outside of fictional representations of werewolf, do we have any real life cases?
Oh, we do. Do you want me to talk about those next?
Yeah, unless you had something else on the schedule.
Well, I was going to talk about the causes of them, but
The causes of what?
of like becoming a werewolf, like what happens, or like how it happens, I guess.
I actually, before we move on, I
Uh-huh.
would actually like to know, do we know if it was like a subtle transformation from humanoid werewolf creatures to full werewolves? Like what was happening there? Or is it common belief, because from the story you told about me and Aaron, the lady slowly transforms until she becomes a full werewolf? So is it kind of like how in Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, he has to win the race so he doesn't stay a werewolf forever, meaning that he fully transforms into a werewolf? So is that in between phase just mean they're not fully a werewolf yet?
I think so. That's kind of hard to say because depending on what like mythology or like origins you're looking at, it could be where it's a gradual process, and it takes time for them to change into a werewolf, or it could be like instantaneously you're a werewolf.
So could it be that it was the transformation where you were a humanoid werewolf before you became full werewolf, and that's how we see Shaggy and Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, but we as humans being self-centered, we're like, no, a dog can't be the center of the story. Marley and Me is the only type of movie that can have that. Airbuds, I guess, can have that too. 101 anyways. But we like to see that there was some human in the werewolf, like how we kind of humanized Frankenstein a little more than just a brute.
Honestly,
Like he needed a wife.
like he needed a wife. I don't know. I guess I've never thought about that. Like why, there's the form where it's like more humanoid, where, people are like, oh, well, they're still kind of human, rather than being them, like, just a wolf. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know.
Well, in Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf, is there I don't quite remember what causes him to start the transformation, Aaron?
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in probably 10 years, if not more.
I know he was at like the drive-in theater when the transformation begins, but yeah, I don't remember what causes it. Is there like a more fully developed werewolf that takes a chomp on Shaggy's arm or something? I don't know. I just feel like we're really missing an opportunity here, because the Scooby Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf is probably the most accurate documentation of werewolves we have.
I feel like I've failed our listeners.
Oh, there's
Oh
the
gosh,
anime
no,
again.
close it down. But yeah, so from what I've found, there's multiple ways that you can become a werewolf. One way is lycanthropy, and basically how you get lycanthropy is either through you being bit by another werewolf, or you're cursed, like by a witch or by, some supernatural being. Also, I found stories where it's genetic, where it's like a whole family has this disease. There's also other mythology where, it's not lycanthropy. It's where they wear a certain article of clothing. So, like, in one story I found, it was like a belt. Another story, it's just basically like this fur. And so what they do is, if they want to turn into a werewolf, they wear that fur and they transform into that, that werewolf. And when they want to become human, they take that skin off somehow. And like that mythology, it's funny, in all the stories I've like read, the reason why the werewolf gets killed or, gets cured from being a werewolf is because they throw their fur or their article of clothing that, changes them into werewolves, like out in the open where people can like see it and, like do stuff with it. Because in multiple stories, what happens is, one of the characters grabs that fur and they burn it, and they either kill the werewolf or they cure the person, which is, I don't know, I just found that funny.
So what you're telling me is they wear article of clothing that transforms them into a werewolf.
Yeah, that's like being cursed or something.
And the only way to bane them from their existence of werewolfness is
burning that fur.
Is getting butt naked to show that they're not a werewolf. They're in fact a human being, and then burning their clothes.
Yeah. Short story short. Yeah.
It just sounds like a crappy reason for public nudity.
Imagine someone saying to an officer, "I'm a werewolf. If I put these clothes back on, you won't like it."
Give it a month or two, you'll see a Florida man meme about it.
Oh, I bet there's already some stuff about it.
It's totally illegal to do that in the U.S. as long as you follow the old Roman tradition of peeing on your clothes after you've stripped.
Yeah, as long as you follow, as long as you're following, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it, as long as you're following the Roman tradition of pretty much doing it in the sense to show that you're not a werewolf and you're a man, then it's okay, right?
Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, I'm not an officer of the law, but
I'm not a lawman.
I'm not a lawman. I mean, do we have any police listeners out there? Are we wrong? Please tell us.
I think
I didn't hear them. Sounds like a no to me. You're in the clear. Go for it.
We need to start one of those social experiment YouTube channels.
Yeah, where we cement our head in a microwave. Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah, or we can like hit people with our car and then tell them it was a prank.
I think that's just assault.
No, it's a prank.
But yeah, and so those are like, like the, I guess story reasons why, people become werewolves. But there's also like real life stuff where people, no fault of their own, have certain conditions, like trichosis, which this disease is basically where the person has abnormal hair growth, and it's either throughout their whole body or in like localized areas, so like their face. And like nowadays, most people will get that hair removed. They have to consistently get that hair removed. But like if you look back like 300 years ago, if a person had that, they were outcasts to society. There's also a mental disorder called clinical lycanthropy, and basically, from what I've saw on Wikipedia and other sites, it's basically where they believe that they're that animal, and there's certain triggers that will trigger them in this state of like animalistic behavior where they don't like people, they try to bite people. And there's also, in this mental disorder of clinical lycanthropy, there's also other people that believe that they're other animals. So like cats, there's been documentation about people who believe that they're emus, and yeah. But now we're going to talk about some real life stories about werewolves. So the first story is called The Werewolf of Bedbug. And Bedbug is a town in Germany. I didn't write down where in Germany, but it's in Germany. And so in the 15th century, there was this man named Peter Stump. And he was a farmer. He had a wife and 2 kids, a son and daughter. And, you know, he was an okay guy. You know, he had his left hand cut off, so he was at a disadvantage. He loved the occult. He loved, you know, the devil. He thought he was kind of cool.
Any chance that his left hand is cut off due to being used for a hand of glory? Trying to harvest maximum power?
I didn't see that in the stories I was reading, but honestly, that could have been because he relates. Well, I guess we'll say this later, but yeah, that could have been why his hand's off. His left hand is cut off. But this guy, when he was younger, he made a deal with the devil, and that honestly, he could have cut off his left arm to, like, I guess, hand of glory. He made a deal with the devil for, like, supernatural power. That's what he wanted. And the devil gave him a fashionable fur belt. Now we're talking, you know, the finest fur belts you can ever find on eBay, Amazon, even better.
This is just really starting to sound like a movie that came out recently.
What movie?
One about a certain powerful woman from 1984.
Oh my gosh. Did they steal this from... they might have, honestly. But this fur belt was able to transform, if worn, Peter into a werewolf. And so through... What was it? The next 35 years... I didn't write it, dang it. But basically, through the next 35 years, he goes around mutilating cattle. He ends up killing 11 children, 2 pregnant ladies, and the methods. Oh gosh! And they knew it was him that was doing it because his method was the same. What he would do is he would rip out their throat. And he would, there was a cut alongside, you know, the stomach, and they would find like bite marks, around the body. Like he would eat parts of the body, and you know they finally catch him, and you know they catch him in the month of October of 1589, and basically. The town folk didn't like him for, you know, killing their cattle and their children and the other people. And so they tortured him. And, you know, they put him up on the rack, you know, the torture device that stretches you out. And he says, you know, like, oh, I guess you got me. I'm a werewolf. And on October 31st, that same year, 1589, they behead him. And a lot of like historians, you know, some historians are kind of skeptical about this story. Some aren't. But the ones who aren't skeptical, they believe that Peter Stump suffered clinical lycanthropy, and that's why he killed, you know, all those people.
Did he receive the last name Stump before or after he chopped off his hand?
So I believe it was after, because he has a lot of different aliases, and they're not really sure where that last name or they're not really sure if Stump or Peter Stump was his actual name. They almost believe that it's like his nickname.
Yeah, Yep, sounds like a good thing. Is you call the dude who's missing a limb, you just call him Stump.
Hey, Stump.
It's like
hey,
quite the fitting nickname.
I mean, I think this story's proven that as long as we give furries a meeting ground, they won't harm us. Just let them do their thing, and they won't hurt us anymore.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, so the next story This is called The Beast of Shavudong. And this story, I'm not sure, but this is what I believe is probably the origin of the silver bullet. So, why werewolves don't like silver bullets. So basically, Shavudong is a southeastern province in France. And during the 1764 to 1767, there was a wolf-like creature that was terrorizing this province. And it killed over an estimated 500 people, which, was a ton. And so these town folk are just like, they're freaking out because this wolf would go only after children and women. It wouldn't attack men. And so, the children and women would be, they would be out in the farm gathering, crops and stuff, tending the fields. And, the wolf will attack, and then, people will, get all angry and they'll go hunt for the wolf, and they'll, sometimes they'll kill like a wolf that they believe that, is the wolf that killed, their family. But the attacks kept on happening. And so, throughout this 3-year period, people are just, they're scared. They're trying to find this wolf. And, a funny thing from this is these guys, they get a great idea. And they're like, if we dressed up as women, I bet we can catch this beast. And so these guys, for a day, they dress up as women and they're out in the fields. And they don't get attacked. But then they continue. And they still don't get attacked. And they're like, well, I guess the werewolf knows we're not women. But basically, towards the end of this reign of terror from the wolf, there was a man by the name of Jean Chastel. And he was a famous hunter. And he's like, I promise, guys, we're gonna get this wolf. We're gonna form hunting parties and we're gonna kill it. And so he does that. They attack the wolf, and they shoot him like 20, 30 times, and the wolf won't go down, and he runs off. So John Chastel is like, you know what? I have a great idea. Let's make silver bullets. Why? I don't know. It doesn't really explain. And so he eventually kills the wolf, and everyone's happy. And it's a huge wolf, and they try to send it to another city just to like verify, like, oh, this is like the werewolf. But it ends up getting lost, and so like there's no evidence to prove that that this was like a werewolf or like just this enormous wolf. And a lot of historians believe that Jean Chastel was just like this prankster, because there's other stories about this dude who just pulls pranks on like other hunters. And so this story is kind of believable, kind of not, but I think it's kind of the reason why this story is so popular. It's because I think it tells the origin of the silver bullet and why, wolves, don't like that. But yeah.
I think wolves might just not like being shot in general.
Yeah, I mean that might be a better like a better explanation, but for some reason it's like taken off. But yeah, those are the two stories I could find that were like kind of like real life, werewolves, so to speak. But yeah,
that's werewolves.
That's werewolves. If you are mad, and if I skipped over any like stories that you liked, let me know.
If you are scared of the full moon, don't worry. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has confirmed the full moon, while having the power to move the tides of the ocean, it is not powerful enough to do anything to you as a human. I mean, that's true. I didn't make that up. They did confirm that.
That's good.
If you see a wolf when you're out on your adventures and you don't have a silver bullet. You can always hit a werewolf with a GTS gut wrench power bomb, and it should take it down momentarily.
Yeah, I think that's one of their weaknesses. So yeah, do that.
What?
Was that everything?
Yeah, that was everything.
I'm just confused on what you guys are talking about. What is a GTS?
The
Ford
GTS gut wrench power bomb, a
pickup
famous WWE finisher.
Have you just been watching WWE? I feel like every other episode you have a new WWE move in your handbook.
I hang out with Rudolph Fentz on the weekends occasionally. He shows me a thing or two.
He stops by for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
So
okay, then.
if you're looking to get, yourself in a figure 4 leg lock, Christopher, you come on over. Hit you with a frog
I'm
splash,
not.
maybe a Calgary crab, a choke slam, whatever.
Skyly wakes me up with the frog splash every morning.
With the
She's like,
kid-
time for school.
I've learned that Tyler's favorite way to wake up is the classic camel clutch, so we're getting there.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite way, but it's a way to get me up.
What is your favorite way to be awoken?
I would say a light breeze, maybe some birds chirping. But that's just me.
Well, I mean, I think that sums up this episode, right? We've covered wolves to the extent of what Bone Patrol has to offer, and if you missed any of your favorite stories, let us know. We do want to watch Twilight with you guys. Tyler suggested it behind the scenes. He was like, "I'll do anything to watch Twilight with the fans." I'll do Lil Lucas. He'll do anything to watch Twilight with you. All of them in one sitting. He just wants to spend time with you watching Twilight. So please let us know if you want to watch Tyler get chained to a chair and watch Twilight, all of them in a row. Let us know if that's something you'd be interested in. We can stream it on Twitch. We can put it on YouTube. I don't freaking care. We'll make it happen. We just want to make you guys happy.
On that note, lock it in the crypt, baby.
I think this one probably needs a midnight awoo.
Oh.
Ooh, okay, well, on that weird awoo, good night.
Good night.